Okay, stop. I know what you're thinking. Black guy in a do-rag and a hoodie talking about 4Ks. He's not an expert. Okay, fine. I may not be an expert, but I know what I'm talking about. Hi, my name is Isaac Rouse, aka Jokerman Uno. If you Google me, you can see that I do this all the time. May not be 4Ks, but I report on topics such as these, and when I am not reporting, I am definitely kicking back, collecting, and watching movies, alright? And last year, I got at least 10 4Ks that I want to talk about. They're my top 10 favorite, but it's not really a top 10. They're just 10 of my favorites in no particular order. I'm going to do this all in one shot. I have a stack right here on the left. They will be on my right by the end of this. But before we get to the physical conversations, I do want to talk about some of the digital movies that I watched. Only two. Sometimes, you can't get the physical. Sometimes digital is just more, what's the word I'm looking for? Instant gratification, more accessible, whatever. So, the first movie I'm going to talk about that I saw digitally, actually, hilariously enough, they're both James Cameron joints. The first one I'm going to talk about is The Abyss. I've never seen The Abyss in my entire life, but there was like a big hoopla over The Abyss 4K restoration being one of the greatest restorations ever. And yeah, I mean, there's also the discussion of AI and James Cameron's, opinions of using AI, especially when it comes to restoring his classic works. We'll talk more on that later. And for this, there was definitely some uncanny valley moments. It looked like you were looking at Grand Admiral Tarkin from Rogue One all over again. Like there were some moments, some people looked like eerily robotic or like not human, but the visuals, the backgrounds, and seeing beads of sweat, that was pretty crazy. Like those are the moments that you live for. Like there may be some hiccups in the 4K. They're not as bad as like I Love Lucy, and like there's like a AI restoration of I Love Lucy, and there's some guy in the background that looks like a lady and some lady that looks like another guy. It's not that bad, but there are some weird moments. But for every weird moment, there's like two greater ones that surpass it. I took some images, like some pictures off my phone of the film that are gonna show up here, and really great, like amazing. Like this is shot off of an iPhone 15 Pro Max, raw in the raw, 16 by 9, and just the colors, man. The blues, the reflections off the water, the contrast, just the blacks on the black shadows of the equipment. Like I said, the facial pores, the beads of sweat. Some of the effects look pretty cool. Like sometimes you can really tell. Like there's a projection. James Cameron loves his background projections, and sometimes you can tell. But you can also see like the minor enhancements and the miniatures that they're using. You know, I can tell that they're not really on the ocean in some of those scenes, but it's still fine. Really gorgeous. It was my first time watching it. Really great movie. Told about the movie a little bit. Is basically a visual, cinematic representation of going through trial ships in your marriage, and like it's a hell to walk through, and it's like being in the darkness of water. It's like drowning. It's like showing your innermost feelings, and being in the darkest place and having somebody pull you out of that. It's all there, and I just thought it was really great. So that's The Abyss. The second James Cameron joint, of course, is Aliens. And Aliens, I can't believe when I first bought Aliens on Vudu, it was the extended version. And once I realized that it wasn't on 4K, I was like, I might as well get the extended version. And then, like, a few months later, the 4K for Aliens came out and I had to buy it again. But another movie where, like, it just looks so freaking great. Like, that's another movie that uses AI enhancements. Less obvious, like, in terms of Uncanny Valley from The Abyss. I didn't have those moments watching it. So when I originally saw Aliens, it was the first movie I saw that like had the AI stuff in it, and the James Cameron topic was really hot at the time. And I was like, what are people talking about? I was like super agreeing with James Cameron's thoughts of like one of these fucking babies crying about like the use of 4Ks. I mean the use of AI in 4K. Like I don't think AI has a place in everything, but in some stuff, yeah. But yeah, that is so great, man. It wasn't like, everybody like, it was like watching the movie for the first time. It wasn't like that, but it definitely made me appreciate the film on another level, and on a technical aspect. That's how I got acquainted with James Cameron using projections in the background in the first place, because I finally noticed that when Ellen Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, is in the elevator on her way down to fight the Mother Queen, that's a 4K. That's not a 4K. That's a projection of an elevator going down. Like, you can tell now, and it looks great now. You can appreciate it now. I mean, I guess it's like, you can't tell, and that's the point in the original enhancements. I mean, like the original like versions, but the enhancement, you can kind of tell now. But it does make you appreciate it on a technical aspect. There's a lot of stuff I appreciate on a technical aspect watching this now. Like, it was always my favorite scene, but I didn't realize it was my favorite scene until I watched it in 4K just recently. The scene where they all go into the alien kind of like hive, and you got all the Marines not knowing that they're surrounded by freaking xenomorphs, and then as the walls start moving, like in the 4K restoration, you can see it way like much clearer. They're not using darkness to hide like the creatures in the environment. Like they were using the I would say that in the old original restorations, that darkness is used as like a mirroring effect, so you don't see things too well. But in the 4K, it's so enhanced that you can't help but see it. Again, takes a little bit of the mystique away, but it makes you appreciate it on a technical aspect a little bit more. And Aliens is one of the greatest movies of all time. I will always like Alien a little bit more just because I'm a horror guy, but Aliens, man, is one of the greatest sequels ever. And that 4K is pretty amazing. All right, so let's get to the physical joints now. Finally, um, like I said, no particular order. Taxi Driver. You see that? Taxi Driver. You know, I appreciate Taxi Driver immensely. It's one of my favorite Scorsese. Joey Scorsese is one of my favorite directors of all time. Um, I got the steel box set here. You see Travis Bickle back here. You open it up, you see him in the army joint. See the discs over here. Uh, I got this. I forget what date he says when he's working out, and he's like, I gotta get all the toxins out of my body and no more destroying my body. I'm gonna do push-ups. I'm gonna do sit-ups. Blah, 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 blah. They started sharing that on social media, and I was like, why don't I have that movie? Is that movie in 4K? And then I checked, and I was like, oh my god, a 4K is coming out soon. Let me pre-order it. And I think I got it around July. And that scene matches where I was at mentally back then, because I was super just trying to get into my workout routine. So I was feeling Travis and on like a trying to like eliminate distractions, razor focus, almost psychotic focus. And I was pretty isolated at the time, so I was just really attached to like that particular scene in that film and the soundtrack. That soundtrack is amazing, by the way. Like, anytime I listen to a soundtrack on Spotify, that's how you know it's good. This is the definitive. And speaking of this, who knew how relevant Taxi Driver would be by the end of this year with the whole Luigi thing, and it'd be more reflective of society than Joker 2 would be, even though Joker was a big reflectory like statement on this generation of men, even though it stems from Taxi Driver delving into those kind of people in the first place. Like I said, if you want some nuanced like ideology about where like the mental processes for most men in this country, the United States, right now, it's Taxi Driver. A bunch of isolated weirdos don't have like father figures, mentors, anybody to look up to. Society has like cast them away in favor of like the new thing, and like little boys are being thrown to the wayside for like YouTube and Fresh and Fit and Andrew Tate to raise instead. And that's what it is. That's dead ass Taxi Driver. I love it. It's probably in my top five Scorsese joints, if not top three. What else do we got here? Let's see. We're gonna move on to my actual favorite movie of all time, and I mean all time. It just got another 4K release. It is Shaun of the Dead. Shaun. I have this in about every kind of like, not every, but in two more formats. I have the regular 4K, that came out. Hold on. I have the regular 4K that came out with all three movies in the Cornetto trilogy. I also have 1 second. I I also pulling it right off the shelf have the regular DVD of Shaun of the Dead. Um, this Shaun of the Dead features a different restoration than this Shaun of the Dead. This Shaun of the Dead uh has Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision, which I cherish also fondly. It's one of the first things I check for when I go DVD shopping. Is it have Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision, and is there a digital code so that when I'm traveling I could watch it? Um, show you this a little bit more is obviously designed off of like the old horror comics that used to come out in like the 40s and 50s and shit like that. At least that's what I believe, the 40s and 50s. Don't date me on that. Don't hold me to that. The inside, the discs look like the records that play Queen when they're fighting off the zombies at the start of the third act. Um, yeah, Edgar Wright. He's one of my favorite directors of all time. The Cornetto trilogy is my one of my like they're my favorite some of my favorite films of all time, with Shaun of the Dead being my absolute favorite movie of all time. Nick Frost, Simon Pegg, those are my fucking boys. I love Spaced. I watched Space, I think maybe once or twice in my like early teen years and 20s. I don't remember anything outside of like the Tekken references and stuff though. Yeah, Shaun of the Dead. It's equal parts horror, equal parts comedy. My two favorite genres mashed together. It's written so very cleverly. Just on the screenwriting aspect, the actors and actresses are top notch. The humor is top notch, and there's a lot of special features in this, way more than in the DVD. It includes some stuff from the DVD, but it also includes some stuff from the 25th anniversary. So there's like some new recorded material from like from last year or the year before, leading into the celebration screening event that they was gonna have in Europe on September 25th, 26th ish. That I was actually around in Europe, in London, in the UK for. I wasn't there for it, but I was hoping I would be able to see it. But I left maybe the day or day before that it was actually going to start. But it's fine. I wasn't anywhere near close to a cinema that they were doing that at, and Simon Pegg actually dropped out at the last minute, so I wasn't going to get to see him. So instead, on the airplane, I bought this on pre-order, and I'm pretty happy with the results. Yeah, the restoration on this is pretty freaking great. This is like the first thing I got this. I opened this on Christmas, and it's the first thing I watched, and I fell asleep to it. And there's so many features that played afterwards that I was utterly shocked, but utterly so very happy that I bought it, because anything more as far as information goes when it comes to this movie, I'll take it. Um, so there's that. The next movie is actually a Criterion joint that I got while I was in PA visiting a friend. We went to Books a Million. Well, my girl lives in Books a Million. She is a Books a Million girl, and I am a Criterion Collection boy. And I picked up Bound. Bound. Now, I know I mentioned my partner just now, but she knows this. Jennifer Tilly is my fucking wife. I love, love, love Jennifer Tilly. I love Jennifer Tilly then. I love Jennifer Tilly now. And I've never seen Bound. And I came, no pun intended, for Jennifer Tilly, but stayed for gosh, I'm getting ready to fuck up her name. Gina Gershon. Porky, right? Corky. I called her Porky. That's terrible. I stayed for Corky, who was played by Gina Gershon. And then I was treated to my man Joe Pantoliano. I was fuck up his name, but the boss from Bad Boys and shit like that, being a real fucking actor in this movie. Like, I'm always watching him blow his top off like he's fucking Bill Burr or something, but he was putting on acting chops in this movie, and I was not ready. Corky is one of the coolest characters I've ever seen in a movie ever. She's literally so fucking cool. It's ridiculous. I really enjoyed this movie. I love Jennifer Tilly as, like, the femme fatale thing, but she's kind of typecast as that a lot of the time, but I can see why this was an amazing performance. It looked gorgeous. It was very hot. That's like the main thing of Bound. I was expecting this to be like a horn dog fest the whole time, so I was expecting some hotness, but it was really tame than what I thought it would be. Like, I haven't watched Bound because I thought it would be something else, when in fact it was clearly another thing, which is like this pulpy, like murder solving kind of you know God, what's that God, what is that movie called? It's on my shelf. Double, right. But it actually, Bound turns out to be more like Double Indemnity. You know, that pulpy classic femme fatale film. I have it over here. That's how you say it, right? Double Indemnity. Ah. Anyway, that's it was a great buy, a great purchase. I'll show you some more of it. Here's the inside. Very cool shit. Like I said, she is so fucking cool in this movie. I won't go through the booklet too much, but got some stuff here. I saw something about post 9/11. Cool stuff. Next movie. I have never seen this either. It's a classic from the 90s. Everybody has returned to it because the sequel came out last year and did pretty well. Talking about Twister. Everybody was saying that this is one of the greatest 4Ks of this year, and I would not believe it. So I bought it and I watched it, and I was very impressed with it. Like, the effects were really like impressive, and I don't know if there was any touch-ups done or anything like that, but it didn't look bad at all to me. Now, obviously, there's some dated moments that can't be fixed. A lot of the shots that are pulled out, like if you see the tornado, like in a pulled out scene, like in the distance, that shit looks super fake. But when you're close up, and it's few and far moments of that in between. But when you're close up, when you're like like you're in the tornadoes, like none of that shit looks fake. Not even the floating cow looks fake. But it is one of those 90s movies that like everybody is like treating like it had super prestige. I always remember Twister being kind of whack when I was a kid, so there was no reason for me to go and rush and watch it. Hence why I've never seen it. But with Twister's coming out, with me wanting to see it in 4DX, which I never got to do, I wanted to see Twister, and it was really good. It surprised me. Like, somebody on Twitter, like the revisionist history on Twister, everybody was like, oh, when I saw Philip Seymour Hoffman in this, I knew he was something else. It's like, really? In this role, he's a fucking goof troop, for real? So this is the inside. You don't have to claim this. You can't claim this, even if you try it. So don't even try and pause the video. Very basic inside. Nothing too special. But, I did enjoy the movie. I've seen it more than once since I've purchased this. And I always have a good time, hence my returning to it all the time. All right. So we're gonna get to the next DVD here. It's shocking to me that this hasn't been in 4K, but this director has some kind of deal with 4Ks and stuff like that. I'm still waiting for the 4K that's supposed to be coming out this month that has a supply chain issue with. I'm talking about Zodiac, as you can see, first time on 4K Ultra. Uh, Talking about David Fincher, of course, and of course the DVD I'm waiting for is Seven to come in the mail, but it's not coming for some time, and that's unfortunate. I fell asleep watching this, the 4K specifically. Not because I dislike the movie. It's actually one of my favorite David Fincher movies. I've watched it more than a few times, and enjoyed it deeply. At first, it was kind of disappointing me, this 4K, because in the darker scenes, it's really dark, and the Dolby Vision and Atmos is not helping in that department. But when you get into the sunlight, when it's daytime scenes, the colors are so freaking lush, like so freaking lush. But this is Zodiac we're talking about. Those moments are few and far between. But the scene where the Zodiac rolls up on the couple, that looks gorgeous. The scene that shows the top down, almost Alfred Hitchcock shot of the car uh driving through town before Zodiac shoots the cab driver, that's a cool scene. A lot of the lights like really help, like the street lights and the street lights and the street lamps, I guess. The street lights and the lights of the street, they really, like, because of those colors and all this darkness, it really helps to lighten up the image and make those colors pop a lot more. Um, But yeah, as far as the movie goes, it's great. It's it features like several Avengers people, my Marvel hoodie, um, during or before their time at Marvel, which is always a pretty cool thing to see whenever you're watching a movie that contains more than one MCU guy. Um, Fantastic plot. I love Robert Downey Jr. in this. Jake Gyllenhaal is playing against his usual type. He's amazing in this. What more can I say about Zodiac that hasn't already been said on a film level? It's one of David Fincher's greatest movies of all time, and I stand on that. So let's move on to the next film. This is not the super awesome Steelbook that came out for it this year, but this is another movie that I was just utterly shocked is not on 4K. There's a weird 4K problem. Like this should be some movies that have 4Ks and some that should not, but it all depends on the distributor and the movie company, doesn't it? Of course, I'm talking about Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, right? Pulp Fiction. Who hasn't seen this poster before? Who hasn't seen this film before? It's every teenage boy's favorite film when it come like when they first see it, and it was mine for a very long time. It is definitely one of Tarantino's greatest. It features some of like the best actors of all time. The cast is insane. Again, nothing too special in the inside of this. They reserved that for the Steel Book. But it's just one of those movies like okay, it has to be on 4K. It looks great. Nothing too like you know noticeable about the restoration. Like, of course, it looks great, but there's nothing that like really stood out to me like a scene or a moment like any of the other ones that I've mentioned so far. But it does look great, and I'm just happy to have it in 4K after like all these years. I think another Tarantino joint just came out 4K, Inglorious Bastards. I have that, but the Arrow version is just like a upscale from the 2K ones that I already have. Tarantino's 4Ks are like either they don't exist or they're like not worth the upgrade. He's kind of in the same bag as David Fincher as when it comes to like these movies should have been on 4K a long time ago. So I'm mostly happy to have this just to have it. It looks great. It's finally here. I wish I got my hands on the collector steelbook edition because there's so many like dope ass treats. The presentation in the box is so great. But yeah, that's Pulp Fiction. Next joint, another James Cameron joint. Hilariously enough, I'm talking about Terminator. I have the slipcover here. Terminator. This uses 4K as well. I mean, this uses AI as well, to my understanding. This one, but it's one of the movies where it's like, okay, it's kind of dated. That's why people don't go back to this Terminator in favor of Terminator 2. And so, like, whatever AI restoration enhancements, cleaning up you can do, will be greatly appreciated. And it is like the colors in this pop so much. There was one scene where Arnie is standing in a neighborhood, like he gets out of his car. You see his boots. He's standing in like a residential neighborhood. He's getting ready to kick down the door of a certain Sarah Connor, not the Sarah Connor. And it just looks so bright and colorful and amazing. It literally made me go, oh, like I audibly made noises throughout my rewatch of this on 4K because it just looks so glorious in so many moments. One of my favorite things though about this, it's a very bare presentation, but I love the disc, man. It's just such great use of like the actual CD and just not using the cover that you would for your average, you know, front of a disc in certain areas to create the skull of a Terminator. I think that was pretty cool. It's just one of my favorite little tidbit things. Yeah, this is definitely like a lot of people were also saying this is one of the greatest 4Ks of this year. I mean, 2024. And yeah, I agree. It just looks that damn good. Arnie still looks like light skinned Michael Jackson, transitioning Michael Jackson when he's got the prosthetic VFX and he's like, adjusting his face in the mirror. But what can you do? I wasn't expecting magic here. And then lastly, I didn't want to talk about this too much because I still have a lot to say about it in my top 10 favorite movies of 2024, but it is also one of my favorite 4K, so I have to talk about it. came out last year, obviously. I am talking about Dune Part 2. Now, I saw Dune in IMAX 4 times. And so when the 4K came out, I was like, I'm never going to get that experience again. And then I put it in. Holy shit. It's not IMAX, but it is as close as you can effing get at home. The restoration on this is crazy good. It looks so freaking good. Coming from a guy who's seen this 4 times in IMAX. I saw it again when I went to go see it with the Directors Guild. I saw it again, and I just wanted to see it on a big screen again. And in the middle of it, I'm like, this is good, but it's not as good as it is watching this shit at home with Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision, and a dedicated Blu-ray player. Like this, to me, it's IMAX experience, the DVD, standard movie television. I mean, standard movie screen. Dead ass. It's so good. I'm so glad I got the steelbook version of it. If you look at the discs, I think it shows the House Atreides and God, what are they? The Harkonnen symbols, I believe. I could be totally wrong. It's just what I think they are at first glance. I don't know. Um, Again, there's so many things I want to say about the actual movie itself. I will save that for my top 10 movies of 2024, which you'll see later. But yeah, if you are a 4K collector, these are the 4K films that you should be trying to go and get while you can before they are discontinued or no longer available or up for resale for like double the price. That's what I would do. Look out for the videos that I've mentioned previously. Obviously, my 10 favorite movies of last year. I think I'll have something about TV shows of last year as well. Check those out soon. Yeah, that's my video.